Levi Langford was sanding the rocking chair when his wife told him she'd stopped loving him 7 years ago. Dawn hadn't fully broken yet. Cardinals were calling from the oak tree his father planted in '68. The coffee steamed beside him on the porch rail, black and bitter the way he'd drunk it for 42 years. He was working on the chair's armrest, smoothing out a rough patch, thinking maybe he'd surprise Sharon with it, thinking maybe things were finally settling down between them after the rough patch. The screen door creaked on its spring. Metal wine he'd been meaning to oil for a month. Sharon stood there in the doorway, already dressed, makeup perfect at 6:15 in the morning. She looked at him the way you'd look at a stranger asking for directions. "I need you to know something," she said, voice flat as January ice. "I haven't loved you in 7 years. I just didn't know how to leave a man so ordinary." The door slammed shut before he could find words. Coffee went cold in his hand. Levi sat there for a long time after she left. The sandpaper was still in his hand, grit wearing into his palm. He could hear her car start in the driveway, that convertible she'd bought last year, the one he'd thought was a midlife crisis thing, harmless enough. Engine roared, gravel crunched, then silence. Ordinary. The word sat in his chest like a stone. He looked down at the rocking chair. Cherry wood, same as her grandmother's had been. He'd chosen it special back in '87, the summer Tyler was born. Spent 3 months in the evenings getting the joints right, the curve of the runners smooth enough they wouldn't catch on the porch boards. Ordinary work for an ordinary man. Levi stood up slow. His knees complained. 67 years of climbing ladders and crawling through attics, wiring houses all over the county. He'd retired 5 years back, but his body kept a ledger of every job. Inside, the house felt different. Same kitchen table where they'd eaten breakfast for 38 years. Same coffee maker, same dish towel hanging on the oven handle. But the air had changed, like how it feels before a thunderstorm when the pressure drops and the birds go quiet. He poured the cold coffee down the sink, made a fresh pot because that's what you do. You keep moving. His father taught him that during the recession in '82 when half the county was out of work. Don't just sit there feeling sorry for yourself. Do the next thing. The next thing was town. He needed fence staples. South pasture fence was sagging, and he'd been putting it off. Work was good. Work made sense. He showered, shaved, put on clean jeans and his Lions Club shirt. Looked at himself in the bathroom mirror and tried to see what Sharon saw. Gray hair, thinning some, lines around his eyes from 40 years of squinting at wire gauges and circuit breakers. Ordinary face on an ordinary man. The drive into town took 20 minutes. Same road he'd driven since he got his license in 1976. Past the Hendersons' place with their Black Angus cattle, past the Methodist church where he and Sharon got married, past the elementary school where Tyler learned to read. Crawford's Feed Hardware sat on the corner of Main and Oak. Levi had wired the place in '94 when Bill Crawford expanded into the old drugstore next door. They'd been friends since high school, played on the same football team back when the town actually had enough boys for a full roster. The bell over the door chimed when Levi walked in. Smelled like it always did. Fertilizer and leather work gloves and motor oil. Country station playing low on the radio. Few folks browsing the aisles. Mrs. Henderson looking at garden seeds. Couple of younger guys in Carhartt jackets near the power tools. "Morning, Levi." Bill Crawford was behind the counter, reading glasses perched on his nose, going through invoices. 71 years old and still running the place himself. "Bill," Levi nodded, headed for the fasteners aisle. "Sharon doing all right? Haven't seen her around lately." Levi's hand paused over the bin of galvanized staples. "She's busy. You know how it is." "Sure, sure." Bill's voice had something in it. Sympathy, maybe. Or pity. Levi grabbed a box of staples, some galvanized nails while he was at it. Carried them to the counter. Bill rang them up slow, the old register dinging with each button press. "That fence in the south pasture?" Bill asked. "Yeah, been meaning to get to it." "Your daddy built that fence in, what was it, '75? '74. Summer before I graduated." Bill nodded, counting out change. "Good fence. Worth maintaining." Levi took the paper bag, the coins. His hands were shaking slightly. He hadn't noticed until now. "You all right, Levi?" "Fine. Just need some coffee in me." Bill's eyes, old friend's eyes that had seen him through his father's death, through Tyler's teenage years, through 4 decades of small-town life, held something that looked like knowing. "If you ever need to talk," Bill said quietly, "you know where to find me." Levi nodded. Couldn't trust his voice right then. He walked back out into the morning sun. It was getting warm already, promising a hot day. May in Ohio, the kind of weather where you can smell the grass growing, the earth turning over and getting ready for summer. He sat in his truck in the parking lot. The paper bag with the staples sat on the passenger seat. Through the hardware store window, he could see Bill going back to his invoices, Mrs. Henderson checking out with her seed packets. Normal morning, normal town, normal life. Except Sharon's convertible was driving past on Main Street right now, and in the passenger seat, Levi's stomach dropped, was a man he didn't recognize. Younger guy, dark hair, gym-built shoulders. Sharon was laughing at something the man said. She didn't even glance at Levi's truck as they passed. He sat there long after they'd turned the corner, heading toward the county gym on Route 9. His hands gripped the steering wheel. The staples sat forgotten beside him. Ordinary men, he thought, aren't supposed to feel like this. 2 days later, Levi went back for the staples he'd left on the counter. He hadn't been able to do it Thursday. Drove home instead, worked on the fence with wire and prayer, makeshift repairs that wouldn't last the summer. Spent the night in his father's study, looking at old photos and not sleeping much. Friday morning came whether he was ready or not. The hardware store was busier this time, 9:30, and folks were getting their weekend projects sorted. Levi recognized most of them. Eddie Pruitt looking at lawnmower parts. Joanne Walsh picking through paint samples. Bill Crawford's grandson working the register while Bill restocked shelves. Levi grabbed his staples quick, kept his head down. "Just get in, get out, go home." The door chimed behind him. "Oh, perfect," Sharon's voice carried across the store. "Levi, honey, I didn't expect to see you here." Honey, like nothing had changed, like Tuesday morning never happened. Levi turned. Sharon stood in the doorway and the younger man from the convertible was with her. Up close, he looked about 35. Tall, built like he spent his life in a gym. Wearing a tight black t-shirt that showed every muscle, sunglasses pushed up on his head. The store went quiet, country music still playing, but every conversation stopped. Sharon smiled. Not a warm smile. Something else. "Derek, this is Levi, my husband." She said it like she was introducing a piece of furniture. "Was going to introduce you two eventually. Guess now works fine." Derek extended his hand. Levi didn't take it. "Nice to meet you, sir," Derek said. His voice had that young man confidence, the kind that comes from never having lost anything that mattered yet. "Sir," like Levi was somebody's grandfather. Sharon touched Derek's arm. Familiar touch, comfortable. Her hand lingered on his bicep. "Derek owns the gym over on Route 9. He's been helping me get back in shape." "Among other things," Derek said, and there was a smirk in it. Sharon looked at Levi then, really looked at him. "You're looking old today, honey. Maybe you should sleep more. All that late-night TV can't be good for you." Levi hadn't been watching TV. He'd been in the study, looking at pictures of when she used to smile at him like he mattered. "Anyway," Sharon turned back to Derek like Levi had disappeared. "I need some hooks for the bedroom, redecorating." They walked past him toward the hardware aisle. Derek's hand dropped to the small of Sharon's back. She leaned into it. Levi stood there holding his staples. Eddie Pruitt was staring at the floor. Joanne Walsh had her hand over her mouth. Bill Crawford's grandson had frozen at the register, eyes wide. Bill himself had stopped restocking. He was looking at Levi with the saddest expression Levi had ever seen on a man's face. And that's when Levi understood. The way Bill had asked about Sharon on Tuesday. The gentleness in his voice. They already knew. The whole town already knew his wife was stepping out with the gym owner. They'd probably known for weeks, months maybe. And they'd been watching Levi walk around like a fool, not seeing what everyone else could see plain as day. Poor Levi Langford. Wife's running around with that trainer boy. Either he don't know, or he knows, and won't do nothing about it. The staples were cold in his hand. He set them on the nearest shelf, didn't even make it to the counter this time, and walked toward the door. Levi, Bill started, but Levi was already outside. Door chiming behind him, friendly little bell that sounded like mockery now. He made it to his truck before his hands started shaking for real, got the door open, climbed in, sat there in the parking lot of a store he'd been shopping at for 50 years. Through the window, he could see Sharon and Derek. They were laughing about something. Derek picked up a package of heavy-duty wall hooks, said something that made Sharon throw her head back, that laugh she used to save for Levi's terrible jokes. Derek leaned down and kissed her cheek, right there in Crawford's Hardware, in front of God and everybody. Sharon didn't pull away, didn't look embarrassed. She touched his face like she had every right to. Bill Crawford appeared in the window then. He was looking out at Levi's truck. His old friend's face said everything. "I'm sorry. I didn't know how to tell you. I wish this wasn't happening." Levi started the engine, his daddy's voice in his head. "Don't just sit there. Do the next thing." But he didn't know what the next thing was anymore. He drove home slow, past the church where they'd promised forever, past the school where they'd raised their son, past 40 years of a life that apparently hadn't been enough to keep her. When he pulled into the driveway, he saw Ruth Callahan standing in her yard across the county road, the old widow who'd lived there since her husband died in '03. She was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. She raised one hand in a small wave. Levi nodded back, then went inside his empty house. The rocking chair was still on the porch, half finished. Ordinary work for a man who wasn't enough. Friday evening, Sharon came home with dinner from Helen's place. Levi was sitting in the living room, staring at the TV without seeing it. Some news program talking about things that didn't matter. He heard her car in the driveway, heard her footsteps on the porch. The door opened. She had a white plastic bag in her hands, the kind Helen used for takeout orders. "I brought meatloaf," Sharon said. "Your favorite." Levi looked at her. She'd changed since this morning. Different clothes, fresh makeup, hair still perfect. "Thought we could talk," she said. Her voice was different too, softer, almost like the Sharon he'd married back when Reagan was president. He should have told her to leave, should have said a lot of things. Instead, he nodded. They sat at the kitchen table, same table where they'd eaten 10,000 meals. Sharon unpacked the containers. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes with gravy, green beans. She'd even remembered to ask for extra gravy, the way he liked it. "Levi." She put her hand on his across the table. Her fingers were cold. "I need to say something." He waited. "I've been cruel." Her eyes were wet now, tears threatening to spill. "I've been so cruel to you, and I'm scared, Levi. Scared of getting old, of being invisible. Of looking in the mirror and not recognizing who's looking back." The tears came then. Real tears, not the fake kind you can spot a mile off. "What I said Tuesday morning, about not loving you, about you being ordinary. God, Levi, I didn't mean it. I'm just terrified. And Derek, he's—" She shook her head. "He makes me feel young, feel seen. But he's not you. He's not the man I married. He's not the father of my son." Levi's throat was tight. He wanted to believe her, wanted it so bad it hurt. "Can we try counseling?" Sharon asked. "Please? I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose us." Her phone was on the table between them, face down. It buzzed once, twice, 3 times. Sharon ignored it, kept her eyes on Levi. "Okay," he heard himself say. "Okay, we can try." She smiled then. That smile he remembered from their wedding day, from Tyler's birth, from 1,000 good mornings before everything went wrong. They ate together, talked about small things. She told him about a house listing she was thinking about taking. He told her about the fence that needed fixing. Normal conversation, almost comfortable. Her phone kept buzzing. After dinner, she squeezed his hand. "I'm going to take a quick shower. Long day." She disappeared upstairs. Levi cleared the table, scraped plates, ran water in the sink. The sound of the shower started up. Then he heard something else. Her voice, muffled but audible through the bathroom door and the running water. Levi moved to the bottom of the stairs, listened. Just buying time. Sharon's voice, not soft anymore. He'll sign everything next week. I've got the papers ready. Silence. She was listening to someone. Tyler's on board. He'll do his part. Just keep the old man calm until Friday. Levi's hand gripped the banister. No, he believed it. The tears, the whole thing. God, it's almost too easy. 40 years of being a doormat, he's practically begging to be walked on. A laugh. Sharon's laugh, but not the one from dinner. The real one. The cold one. Then we're free. The farm, the mineral rights, all of it. Derek, baby, we'll have enough to... Her voice dropped lower. The water shut off. Levi moved fast, back to the kitchen. Grabbed a dish towel, started drying plates with hands that wanted to break something. Sharon came down 10 minutes later in her bathrobe, hair wrapped in a towel, smiled at him. Thank you for listening tonight, Levi. It means everything. She kissed his cheek. Her lips were cold. I'm tired, she said. Going to bed early. You coming up? In a bit. Want to catch the news? Okay. She paused at the stairs. I love you. I know I haven't said it enough lately, but I do. The words hung in the air like smoke. Levi nodded. Couldn't make his mouth form the words back. She went upstairs. Her bedroom door closed, not the master bedroom they'd shared for 38 years, but the guest room she'd moved into 3 months ago. Temporary, she'd said, just until she stopped snoring so bad. Levi sat at the kitchen table until midnight. The meatloaf containers sat in the trash, gravy congealing in the bottom. Tyler's on board. Sign everything next week. Friday, his son, his only child. The boy he'd taught to throw a football, to wire a light switch, to be a man who kept his word. Tyler's part of this. Levi's phone sat on the table. He picked it up, pulled up Tyler's number, thumb hovered over the call button. But what would he say? Your mother says you're helping her rob me blind? He set the phone down. Outside, across the dark fields, a single light burned in Ruth Callahan's kitchen window. She was up late, too. Levi wondered if she knew. If everybody knew except him. If he was the last fool in the county to figure out his life was over. Tyler showed up Saturday afternoon. Levi was in the barn, sorting through his father's old tools, trying to keep his hands busy, keep his mind from circling the same dark thoughts over and over. He heard the car, not Tyler's old Honda, but something newer. Looked out to see a rental sedan pulling up the driveway. His son climbed out, 39 years old now, filling out around the middle, hair thinning at the crown, wearing khakis and a polo shirt like he'd come from the office, even though it was Saturday. Dad. Tyler's hug was stiff, quick, like hugging a business associate. Didn't know you were coming. Levi stepped back, studying his son's face. Tyler wouldn't quite meet his eyes. Thought I'd surprise you. Been too long. 8 years, give or take. 8 years of phone calls on birthdays and Christmas, of excuses about work being busy, about Pittsburgh being far. 8 years of distance that Levi had told himself was normal, was just how modern families worked. Your mother know you're here? Something flickered across Tyler's face. Yeah, we talked. Of course they had. Sharon appeared from the house then, all smiles and energy. Tyler, you made good time. She hugged him properly, the way mothers do. Come inside, I've got lunch ready. They ate sandwiches at the kitchen table, ham and cheese, chips from a bag, iced tea. Sharon kept the conversation moving, asking Tyler about his job, about the drive, about whether he was seeing anyone special. Tyler answered in short sentences, eyes on his plate. Levi watched them both, watched the way Sharon would touch Tyler's arm when she made a point, the way Tyler's jaw would tighten when Levi spoke. After lunch, Sharon suggested they all go to church tomorrow. Families should worship together, she said. Levi nodded, went along with it because he didn't know what else to do. Sunday morning they sat in the same pew the Langfords had occupied for 3 generations. Sharon on one end, Tyler beside her. Levi on the other end, a careful space between them. Pastor Jim preached about forgiveness, about letting go of grudges. Sharon nodded along, dabbed at her eyes with a tissue during the hymns. Tyler stared straight ahead, hands folded in his lap. After service, folks came up to say hello. Everyone seemed surprised to see Tyler, pleased that the Langford boy had come home. Sharon basked in it, the picture of family togetherness. Bill Crawford caught Levi's eye across the fellowship hall, shook his head slightly. Warning or sympathy, Levi couldn't tell which. Sunday dinner was pot roast. Sharon had cooked it special, with all the sides Levi loved: potatoes, carrots, fresh rolls, setting the scene. Halfway through the meal, she started, "Tyler, your father's been having some trouble lately." Levi's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. "Mom," Tyler said. "No, honey, he needs to know we're worried." Sharon's voice was all concern now. "Levi, you left the stove on twice last week. You forgot to lock the front door 3 nights in a row." "I didn't." "And you've been so forgetful, repeating yourself, losing track of conversations." She looked at Tyler. "You see what I mean?" Tyler set down his fork, wouldn't look at Levi. "Dad, maybe it's time to think about simplifying things. The farm's a lot of work for a man your age." Your age, like 67, was ancient, like Levi hadn't built half this county with his bare hands. "There's no shame in getting help," Sharon added, "in letting go of responsibilities that are too much." Levi looked at his son. "You really believe that? That I'm losing my mind?" Tyler's face flushed. "I just think, Mom says—" "I'm asking what you think, son." Silence stretched across the table. The pot roast was getting cold. "I think," Tyler said slowly, eyes on his plate, "that we all need to be realistic about capabilities, about what's safe." Safe. The word they use before they take everything from you. Levi pushed back from the table, stood up. "Excuse me?" He went to his father's study, closed the door, stood there in the room where 3 generations of Langford men had made their important decisions. Monday morning, he found the papers. They were on the kitchen table, arranged in neat stacks. Yellow sticky tabs marking where he needed to sign: power of attorney documents, farm sale agreements, mineral rights transfers. Sharon stood in the doorway, coffee mug in hand. No more pretense now. "Sign them, Levi." He looked up at her. "Or this gets ugly." "Tyler's prepared to testify you're mentally unfit. We've documented everything: the forgetfulness, the confusion, the safety concerns. A judge will appoint a guardian. You'll lose control either way." She took a sip of coffee. "Your choice. Cooperate and keep some dignity, or get dragged through court and lose everything anyway." Tyler appeared behind her. Still wouldn't meet Levi's eyes, but he was there, standing with his mother against his father. Levi looked down at the documents, page after page of legal language, everything his father had built, everything Levi had maintained and protected, everything he'd planned to leave to his son, yellow tabs bright as warning signs. "You've got until Friday," Sharon said. "After that, we file the guardianship petition." She walked away. Tyler hesitated. 1 second, maybe 2, then followed her. Levi sat alone at the kitchen table, surrounded by the paperwork of his own dismantling. His phone was in his pocket. He could call someone: his brother in Montana, his lawyer, the sheriff. But what would he say? "My wife wants me to sign over the farm, and my son thinks I'm losing my marbles." Small-town gossip would eat him alive. Levi gathered the papers, took them to the study, spread them out on his father's old desk, and started reading every word. Because ordinary men might be a lot of things, but his daddy hadn't raised a fool. And somewhere in these pages, Sharon had made a mistake. He just had to find it. Levi didn't sleep Monday night. He sat in his father's study with the documents spread across the desk like accusation. Read every line, every clause, every piece of fine print. The lamp made a small circle of light in the dark room. Outside, spring peepers were calling from the pond. Normal night sounds for an abnormal night. The power of attorney was dated October 15th, 2024. 6 months ago. Levi stared at that date, tried to remember October. Sharon had been distant then, sure, but she'd been distant for years. Had he signed something? Had she brought papers to him while he was watching TV, distracted, and he'd just scrawled his name without reading? He pulled out the filing cabinet, found the 2019 power of attorney from when his father was dying. The one Sharon had helped him with when he was too exhausted from hospital visits and watching his dad fade to read the details carefully. The formats were nearly identical. Same legal language, same structure. Like someone had used the old one as a template. Levi set them side by side. His signature on both looked similar enough. But the 2019 signature was shakier. He'd been grief-stricken, sleep-deprived. The new one was steadier, almost too steady. And the notary seal, Denise Trask, Sharon's second cousin. The woman who notarized half the documents in the county, who'd had arthritis in her right hand for the past 10 years. Levi had seen Denise sign things at church events, seen the way her hand trembled slightly, the way she gripped the pen tight to control the shake. This signature didn't shake. He sat back in the chair, his father's chair, worn leather that smelled like Old Spice and tobacco even though Dad had been gone 5 years. Photos on the walls watched him. Tyler at 6 months old, Levi holding him on this very porch. Tyler at 12, both of them muddy and grinning after building the south fence. Tyler's high school graduation, Levi's hand on his son's shoulder, both of them squinting into the sun. Tyler at his wedding to Maya. Levi in his good suit, giving his son away to a smart young woman who looked at Tyler like he hung the moon. What happened? When did it all go wrong? Levi's phone sat on the desk. He picked it up, scrolled to Maya's number, the one Tyler had given him years ago for emergencies. His thumb hovered over the call button. What would he even say? Your husband's helping his mother rob me? He set the phone down. The house was quiet. Sharon and Tyler had both gone to bed hours ago. In separate rooms, Sharon in the guest bedroom, Tyler in his old childhood room. Levi wondered if they'd met up to talk, to plan, after he'd retreated to the study. Probably. He stood, walked to the window. Across the dark fields, Ruth Callahan's kitchen light was still on. 2 in the morning, and the old widow was awake. Levi thought about the day of his father's funeral. Ruth had brought a casserole and hadn't said much, just squeezed his hand and left. He'd barely known her then, just the neighbor lady across the way, keeping to herself after her husband died. But she'd been there, quiet kindness when he needed it. He turned back to the desk, to the photos, to a life laid out in frames. His wedding day. Sharon in white, 25 years old and beautiful, laughing at something. He'd been 29, thinking he was the luckiest man alive. Thanksgiving 1998. Sharon with flour on her nose, Tyler helping her bake pies, Levi in the background with the turkey. Real laughter in that photo. Real family. When had it stopped being real? Levi sank back into the chair. The leather creaked, familiar sound that usually brought comfort. Tonight, it just reminded him he was alone. He could sign the papers, just sign them and let it all go. Take what Sharon offered. Some money, probably, to keep him quiet. Go live with his brother in Montana. Start over at 67. Or he could fight, alone, against his wife and his son and whatever lawyer Sharon had lined up. Fight and probably lose, because what did he have? A signature that looked wrong to his untrained eye. Suspicions about timing. The town would watch. Poor Levi Langford, they'd say. Can't accept that he's getting old, making a fuss over nothing, embarrassing himself. Or he could just disappear, leave in the night, let them have the farm, the house, the mineral rights, let them win. His father's voice, memory, or ghost, or just exhausted imagination. Sometimes you're the only one who'll stand for what's right. That doesn't mean you sit down. But Dad, Levi thought, what if standing up means losing everything anyway? The photos didn't answer. The house didn't answer. The spring peepers kept calling, oblivious to human troubles. Levi laid his head down on the desk, just for a minute, just to rest his eyes. He woke to gray dawn light coming through the window. His neck ached from the awkward angle. The papers were still there, still demanding his signature. Tuesday morning, 3 days until Sharon's deadline. He heard movement upstairs. Sharon's shower running, Tyler's door opening. Levi stood, folded the documents carefully, put them back in their neat stacks. In the bathroom mirror, he looked old, tired, ordinary. but his eyes were clear, and he'd made a decision. Somewhere in the dark hours between midnight and dawn, he just wasn't ready to tell anyone what it was yet. Tuesday morning, 7 o'clock sharp, someone knocked on Levi's door. He was at the kitchen table with his coffee, same as always. Sharon and Tyler were still asleep upstairs. The knock came again, firmer this time. Levi opened the door. Ruth Callahan stood on his porch with a manila folder under her arm and fire in her eyes. "Morning, Levi." She was 72, white hair pulled back in a bun, wearing a cardigan despite the May warmth. "We need to talk." He stepped aside. "Let her in." She set the folder on the kitchen table with a sound like judgment. "I've been documenting everything." Levi stared at the folder. 6 months' worth, Ruth said. Photos, dates, times, license plates. She opened it. Inside were pages of careful handwriting, printed photographs, gas station receipts. Sharon and Derek in Levi's truck, parked outside the gym, dated, time-stamped. Sharon's convertible at the Route 9 motel, 3 different dates. Tyler's rental car pulling up at 11 at night 3 weeks ago, before Levi even knew his son was planning a visit. A photo of Tyler and Sharon at the Waffle House, heads together across a table. 2 weeks before Tyler surprised them with his visit. "I lost my farm in '95, Ruth said quietly. "My husband passed and his second wife, woman he married after I thought we were happy, she took everything, used lawyers and paperwork and made me look crazy for fighting back." Her hands were steady on the photographs. "I stayed silent because I was ashamed, because I thought keeping peace was more important than keeping what was mine." She looked up at Levi. "I lost it all, Levi. The dairy farm my first husband and I built together, gone in 6 months." Levi's throat was tight. "I've been watching your place for years," Ruth said. "Not snooping, just aware. I saw when things changed between you and Sharon, saw that boy start showing up, saw your son arrive before you knew he was coming." She tapped the folder. "I won't let it happen to you. You're not alone." Levi had to look away. Couldn't meet her eyes, or he'd lose what was left of his composure. "I called someone else too," Ruth said. "She should be here soon." "Who?" Tires on gravel, a car door slamming. Maya Langford came up the porch steps like she was heading into court. 37, dark hair pulled back, wearing jeans and a blazer. Tyler's wife, the criminal defense attorney who'd put herself through law school on scholarships and spite. "Dad," she hugged Levi, hard and quick. "We're going to fight this." Levi found his voice. "Tyler's your husband, and you're the man who raised him right." Maya set her briefcase on the table, started pulling out documents. "Which is why I'm going to save him from himself before he does something he can't take back." She spread out papers next to Ruth's folder. Legal precedents, case law, notes in her precise handwriting. "These power of attorney documents," Maya said, tapping Levi's copies. "I saw them Sunday. Something felt wrong, so I've been digging." She pulled out a sheet of paper. "This is Denise Trask's signature from church council minutes, dated March of this year." Levi looked. The signature had a slight tremor to it. Arthritis shake. "Now look at the notary signature on your POA. No tremor. Smooth, confident." "Denise has had arthritis for 10 years, Maya said. It's worse now than it was 6 months ago. But this signature," she pointed, "too smooth, too steady. This isn't Denise's hand." "Sharon forged it," Levi said. "That's what I think, but we need proof." Maya looked at him. "I need to talk to Denise. Get her medical records if she'll cooperate. Compare multiple signatures." "Why are you doing this?" Levi asked. "If we fight Sharon, Tyler's going to—" "Choose," Maya finished, "between his mother's scheme and his integrity." "I know." Her jaw was set. "I married the man you raised, Dad. The one who helped me study for the bar, who cried at our wedding, who used to talk about being the kind of father you were." She paused. "Lately, I don't recognize him. Gambling debts he won't talk about, phone calls he takes in the other room, and now this." She looked at Levi with fierce determination. "If I don't stop him now, he becomes someone I can't love anymore, someone he can't live with being." Ruth spoke up. "We need to move fast. Sharon's deadline is Friday." 3 days, Maya said. She started making notes. We need Denise's cooperation. We need Sheriff Pete. He'll listen to you, Dad. You wired the station back in '98. And we need to keep Sharon thinking she's winning. Let her believe I'm going to sign, Levi said. Exactly. Maya's smile was sharp. Let her get confident. Confident people make mistakes. Footsteps on the stairs. Tyler's voice calling, Mom, you up? The three of them looked at each other. Ruth quickly gathered her folder. Maya slipped her documents back into her briefcase. Tyler appeared in the kitchen doorway. Stopped when he saw Maya. What are you doing here? Visiting my father-in-law, Maya said evenly. That a problem? Tyler's face was unreadable. He looked at Levi, at Ruth, back to Maya. No, no problem. But something in his eyes, guilt maybe or fear, told Levi that his son knew exactly why Maya was really here. Coffee's fresh, Levi said quietly. Help yourself. Tyler nodded, poured a cup with shaking hands. Ruth stood. I should get home. Nice seeing you all. She caught Levi's eye. I'll be around if you need anything. Maya kissed Levi's cheek. Whispered, I'll call you this afternoon. We're going to fix this. Then they were gone, and Levi was alone with his son in the kitchen where he'd taught Tyler to make scrambled eggs, to tie his shoes. To be honest, even when it cost you something. Tyler stood at the counter, back to Levi, shoulders tight. Son, don't, Tyler said, voice rough. Just don't. He walked out, left his coffee steaming on the counter. Levi sat alone at the table, but for the first time in days, he didn't feel alone. Ruth's folder was hidden in the study now. Maya's number was in his phone. Help had arrived, and somewhere upstairs, Sharon was waking up with no idea that the game had changed. Maya moved fast. Tuesday afternoon, she drove to Denise Trask's house, a small ranch on the east side of town, near the elementary school. Called Levi from the car afterward. She's horrified, Maya said. Had no idea Sharon used her notary stamp. She remembered loaning Sharon her car back in July. Family reunion at the community center. Sharon said hers was acting up. Denise left her purse in the car. Stamp was in there. Levi gripped the phone. She'll testify? Already gave me an affidavit, and her medical records showing the arthritis progression. Maya's voice had that courtroom edge now. Sharon made a mistake, Dad. She didn't know enough about Denise's condition to forge it properly. What about Derek? Silence on the line. Then, that's the interesting part. He's gone. Gone. Ruth's church ladies put out feelers. Derek hasn't been at the gym for 3 days. His truck's not at his apartment. Social media went dark. Maya paused. Rats leave sinking ships. Levi thought about that. Derek in the hardware store, smirking. Derek's hand on Sharon's back, young and confident and sure of himself, until things got complicated. Sharon tell him about the fraud? Levi asked. That's my guess. He realized this wasn't just a rich wife leaving her husband, it was a criminal conspiracy. And Derek's not the standing by your woman type. No. Derek was the type who moved on to the next gym membership, the next lonely woman with a bank account. Sharon's alone now, Maya said. Keep that in mind. She's isolated, and isolated people make more mistakes. After they hung up, Levi walked out to the barn. Needed to move, to think with his hands. Started sorting through old lumber, stacking what was good, setting aside what was rotted. Through the barn door, he could see Tyler. His son was loading boxes into Sharon's SUV, moving slow, stopping every few minutes like the work was harder than it should be. Levi watched him, tried to see the boy in the man. The kid who used to follow him around with a toy hammer, helping with projects. The teenager who'd worked beside him every summer, learning to wire outlets and run conduit. Tyler set down a box, wiped his face, went into the tack room. He was in there a long time, longer than it took to grab another box. Levi moved closer, stayed in the shadows. Tyler was sitting on a hay bale. In his hands was something small, blue, a dog collar, ranger's collar. The shepherd mix they'd had when Tyler was growing up. Dog had died when Tyler was 16. Hit by a car on Route 9, broke Tyler's heart. Levi had buried Ranger under the oak tree out back, kept the collar, Forgotten where he'd put it. Tyler was turning the collar over in his hands, the brass name tag catching the light. His shoulders were shaking. Levi's chest tightened. He backed away, quiet. Let his son have the moment. But something had shifted. He could feel it. Wednesday afternoon, Maya met with Sheriff Pete Rawlings at the station. Called Levi afterward with an update. Pete's on board. Says if the evidence supports fraud charges, he'll be there when we confront Sharon. Maya's voice was satisfied. He remembers you wiring this place. Says you refused payment beyond materials cost. Just helping out, Levi said. Well, he's returning the favor. He'll come to the house Friday morning if you want. Official presence, witness to whatever happens. Friday. Sharon's deadline. Tell him yes, Levi said. Wednesday evening, Levi sent a text to Sharon. Kitchen table, Friday 9 a.m. Need to discuss the documents before I sign. Her response came fast. Smart choice. See you then. Tyler didn't respond at all. Thursday was quiet, too quiet. Sharon kept to herself, on her phone constantly. Tyler spent most of the day in his childhood room, door closed. Levi worked on the fence. Physical labor to keep his mind steady. Ruth brought him lunch around noon, sandwiches and lemonade, sat with him on the tailgate of his truck while they ate. Tomorrow, she said. Tomorrow. You ready? Levi looked out at the fields, his father's land. 3 generations of Langford's sweat and work and keeping your word even when it cost you. Ready as I'll get, Ruth nodded. I'll be here early. Maya too. We've got your back, Levi. He couldn't speak, just nodded. That night, Levi barely slept. Lay in bed in the workshop where he'd been sleeping since Sharon took over the guest room. Could see Tyler's light on across the way, in the main house. Shadow moving back and forth behind the curtain. His son was pacing. Couldn't sleep either. Levi thought about the dog collar, about Tyler's shaking shoulders, about the boy who used to think his dad hung the moon. Was that boy still in there somewhere? Or had Sharon's poison killed him for good? 3 in the morning, Levi got up, made coffee in the workshop's small kitchenette, sat at the window and watched the main house. Tyler's light finally went dark around 4. Sharon's room had gone dark at 10, sleeping soundly, confident in her victory. Levi sipped his coffee, watched the sky start to lighten in the east. Pink and gold spreading across the horizon, promising a new day. The manila folder sat on his workbench, Ruth's months of documentation, Maya's legal analysis, Denise's affidavit, Sheriff Pete's agreement to come. Everything lined up, everything ready. Levi finished his coffee, rinsed the cup, got dressed in his good jeans and the flannel shirt Tyler had given him for Christmas 3 years ago, back when they still talked regularly, back when his son still called him Dad like it meant something. He walked to the main house as dawn broke full and clear, unlocked the door with his key, still his house, still his key, no matter what papers Sharon wanted him to sign, made a pot of coffee in the kitchen, set out 3 mugs. Then he sat down at the table to wait. The manila folder in front of him, closed. Upstairs, he heard Sharon's alarm go off, her shower start running, heard Tyler's door open, footsteps in the hallway. Outside, Ruth's car pulled into the driveway, then Maya's, right behind. 9 o'clock was coming, whether any of them were ready or not, and Levi Langford, ordinary man, electrician, father, fool, was done being walked on. Time to stand up. Sharon came down at 8:55, dressed like she was going to a business meeting. Navy blazer, pressed slacks, makeup perfect. She smiled when she saw the coffee. Good morning, Levi. I'm glad you're being sensible about this. Tyler followed a minute later, pale, shadows under his eyes. He wouldn't look at Levi. Just poured coffee and sat down, staring into his mug like it held answers. Levi waited until 9 exactly. Then he slid the manila folder across the table. Before I sign anything, he said quietly, let's review some things. Sharon's smile didn't waver. Levi, we've been over this. Open it. Something in his voice made her stop. She opened the folder. Her face changed. Photos of her and Derek. her truck at the motel, timestamps, dates, license plates, page after page of Ruth's careful documentation. Circumstantial, Sharon said, but her voice had lost its confidence. This doesn't prove anything legally. 17 times over 4 months, Levi said, using my gas card, my truck, my insurance. Tyler was looking at the photos now. His face had gone white. Levi pulled out another photo. Tyler and Sharon at the Waffle House, 3 weeks before Tyler had surprised them with his visit. You planned this before you came home, son. Tyler's hand shook as he set down his mug. Sharon recovered fast. Fine. So I had an affair. That's between you and me, Levi. It doesn't change anything about these documents. You're still struggling, still forgetting things. Tyler's still prepared to testify. About what? Levi turned to Tyler. About how I'm losing my mind. About how I left the stove on, forgot to lock doors. You believe that, son? Tyler's mouth opened, closed. He looked at his mother. Tell him, Sharon said. Tell him what you've seen. Tyler's voice cracked. Dad, I just think you're wearing the watch, Levi said softly. Tyler's hand went to his wrist. The graduation watch. Gold, engraved. To Tyler, who makes me proud every day. Dad. I gave you that when you graduated high school. You remember what you said? Tyler's eyes were filling with tears. You said, I'm going to be a man like you, Dad, someone who keeps his word. Levi, that's enough, Sharon started. The kitchen door opened. Maya walked in, briefcase in hand, lawyer face on. Morning, everyone. Tyler's head snapped up. Maya, what are you? I've known for weeks what you were planning, Tyler. The color drained from Tyler's face. What? The gambling debts. Your mother recruiting you. All of it. Maya set her briefcase on the counter. I've been helping your father build this case because I needed you to see what you were becoming before you crossed a line you couldn't come back from. You. Tyler stood up, chair scraping. You've been working against me? I've been trying to save you, Maya said. Her voice was steady, but Levi could see the pain in her eyes. Save you from being someone I can't love anymore. Someone you can't live with being. Sharon's face had gone hard. This is touching, but it doesn't change anything. Tyler's testimony. Won't matter, Levi said. He pulled out the power of attorney documents, because these are forgeries. He set down the signature comparison. Denise's real signature, shaky with arthritis. The notary stamp on his POA, smooth and steady. Denise Trask has had arthritis for 10 years, Levi said. It's gotten worse, not better. But this signature? He pointed. Too smooth. You didn't know about her condition when you stole her notary stamp, did you, Sharon? Sharon's face went pale. Denise gave us an affidavit. Medical records. She's horrified her stamp was used for fraud. Levi kept his voice level, calm. You made a mistake, Sharon. You got sloppy. The room was silent except for the kitchen clock ticking. This is... Sharon started. Boots on the porch steps. Heavy tread. Sheriff Pete Rawlings appeared in the doorway. 58 years old, 20-year sheriff, football player turned lawman. Morning, folks. Sharon's confidence cracked. What is this? Notary fraud's a felony, ma'am, Pete said quietly. So's conspiracy to commit elder fraud. I've got some questions for you. Tyler made a sound. Half sob, half gasp. He was staring at the photos, at the signatures, at his mother. Mom, he whispered. You told me he was actually forgetting things, that we were helping him. Tyler, shut up. But Tyler was standing now, papers falling from his hands. I've got $73,000 in gambling debts. She said, his voice broke. She promised me $50,000 if I testified. Said it was owed to us anyway, that Dad had more than he needed. He looked at Levi then, really looked at him. And Levi saw his son for the first time in years, saw the shame, the guilt. the desperate need for forgiveness. "I'm sorry," Tyler choked out. "God, Dad, I'm so sorry." "I'm so—" The words dissolved into crying. Tyler sank back into his chair, head in his hands, shoulders heaving like he was 12 years old again, and the dog had just died. Sharon stood, smoothed her blazer. "I want a lawyer." "That's your right," Pete said. "Ma'am, I need you to come down to the station for questioning." "This is ridiculous. I'm his wife." "Who committed fraud?" Maya said. "Multiple felonies, actually. And you involved your son in a criminal conspiracy." Sharon looked around the kitchen. At Pete, at Maya, at Tyler sobbing into his hands, at Levi sitting quiet and still at the head of the table, at Ruth standing in the doorway, watching it all with those sharp old eyes that had seen everything. No allies left. Derek gone. Tyler breaking. The town watching through Ruth's networks. Alone. "Fine," Sharon said. Her voice was cold now. No more charm, no more tears. Just ice. "Tyler, let's go." "No." Tyler's voice was muffled but clear. "I'm not going with you." "Excuse me?" "I said no." He looked up. His face was red and wet, but his jaw was set. "I'm staying here. With Dad." Sharon's laugh was bitter. "After what you did? You think he wants you here?" Everyone looked at Levi. He looked at his son. Saw the boy who'd built fences with him. The teenager who'd learned to wire a house. The man who'd lost his way but maybe, could find it again. "He stays," Levi said quietly. Sharon stared at him. "You're a fool, Levi Langford. You always were." "Maybe so," Levi said. "But I'm a fool who still has his farm. His name. His word." He paused. "You can't say the same." Sharon grabbed her purse, walked to the door, stopped with her hand on the knob. "I have cancer," she said, not looking at them. "Stage 2 ovarian, surgery scheduled for May 12th. That's why the deadline. That's why everything had to be settled now." The kitchen went silent. Levi felt something twist in his chest. All of it, the affair, the stealing, the desperation, colored differently now. A woman facing death, terrified and striking out. But then Sharon turned. And the look on her face wasn't fear, it was calculation. "I needed to know I'd be financially secure if I didn't make it, because God knows you'd have let me die on the street after what I've done." And Levi understood. Even now, she was using it. Using her illness as a weapon, as leverage, as one more manipulation. "You had cancer," Levi said slowly. "And instead of telling your husband of 38 years, instead of fighting it together, you decided to rob me, to turn my son against me." He stood up, walked to face her. "Sharon, I would have taken care of you. That's what marriage meant to me. Through sickness and health, I meant those words." His voice was steady, sad. "But you chose to make yourself my enemy instead of my partner. You chose this." Sharon's face crumpled, just for a second. Then the ice came back. "I couldn't be weak in front of you. Couldn't be ordinary and dying." "You were never ordinary," Levi said quietly. "You made yourself alone." Sharon looked at him, then at Tyler, still crying at the table, at Maya standing beside her husband's father, at Ruth, witness to everything. She walked out. Her convertible started up, engine too loud in the quiet morning. Gravel crunched as she drove away. The kitchen was silent except for Tyler's ragged breathing. Pete cleared his throat. "I'll need statements from everyone. Levi, Tyler, you'll both need to come down to the station." "Today?" Levi asked. "Soon. Not right this minute." Pete looked at Tyler. "Son, you'll want to get yourself a lawyer. Different one from your mother's. What you just said, that confession, it's going to matter." Tyler nodded, couldn't speak. Pete left. Ruth followed, squeezing Levi's shoulder as she passed. Maya knelt beside Tyler's chair. "We need to talk." "About a lot of things." Tyler grabbed her hand. "I'm sorry. Maya, I'm so sorry." "I know. We'll deal with it." She looked at Levi. "Can I take him home? To Columbus? Sort some things out?" Levi nodded. Maya and Tyler stood. Tyler looked at Levi, face destroyed with shame and grief. Dad, I can't. Go with your wife, Levi said. Do what she tells you. Come back when you're ready. Will you? Tyler's voice broke. Will you ever forgive me? Levi thought about that, about the boy in the photos on the study wall, about the man standing in front of him now, broken but maybe not beyond repair. Ask me again after you've done the work, Levi said. Forgiveness isn't free, son. It's earned. Tyler nodded. Turned to go. Stopped. I found Ranger's collar in the barn, he said quietly. I remembered. I remembered everything. Then they were gone, and Levi was alone in his kitchen. The coffee had gone cold. The manila folder lay open on the table, evidence of betrayal and documentation of truth. His farm was still his. His name was still his. But his marriage was over. His son was gone, maybe for good. The victory didn't taste like he'd thought it would. It tasted like ashes and old coffee and the particular bitterness of winning at a cost too high to celebrate. Levi sat down at the table and put his head in his hands. And for the first time in 67 years, he let himself cry. 3 months later, Levi woke to the sound of a hammer. August morning, heat already building even at 7. He made coffee in the kitchen, in his house, on his land. Simple things that meant everything now. Through the window, he could see Tyler working on the barn, replacing boards that had rotted through, painting the trim white again like it had been when Levi's father was alive. Tyler had been back for 6 weeks now. Came home in mid-July with Maya, both of them looking worn thin but holding hands. Asked if he could stay. Asked if he could work. Levi had said yes to the staying. The rest, the forgiveness, the trust, that was being earned one nail at a time. Tyler lived in the workshop now. Woke early, worked until dark, fixing what needed fixing, painting what needed painting, rebuilding what had broken. Didn't talk much, didn't need to. The work was the apology. The showing up was the repentance. Levi poured 2 cups of coffee, walked out to the barn. Morning, he said. Tyler looked up from the board he was fitting, sweat already on his face, sawdust in his hair. Morning, Dad. They stood there drinking coffee while cardinals called from the oak tree and the sun climbed higher. Comfortable silence, the kind that only comes after you've been through the fire together. Maya coming this weekend? Levi asked. Yeah, Saturday. Tyler set down his cup. We're doing better. Counseling helps. Levi nodded, knew better than to push for details. She saved me, Tyler said quietly, from becoming someone I couldn't live with being. He looked at Levi. You both did. Levi didn't answer, just clapped his son's shoulder and went back to the house. Ruth's car was pulling into the driveway. She came by most mornings now, brought fresh biscuits, or just sat on the porch talking about nothing important. 72 years old and the best friend Levi had. Morning, Levi. She had a newspaper under her arm. Thought you'd want to see this. It was from the county paper. Small article on page 3. Local woman pleads guilty to notary fraud. Sharon's name. 3 years probation, restitution, community service. She's living with her sister over in Fairfield, Ruth said. Had the surgery in June. Cancer's gone, apparently. Levi folded the paper. Good. That she beat it, I mean. You make sure she had money for treatment, Ruth said. It wasn't a question. Made sure she could survive, Levi said. Not that she'd be comfortable. There's a difference. Ruth smiled. Your daddy raised you right. They sat on the porch, watching Tyler work. The man moved like Levi had taught him, steady, careful, getting it right the first time. He's going to make it, Ruth said. Maybe, if he keeps showing up. A car came up the driveway, Maya's sedan, but too early for Saturday. Tyler set down his hammer, shading his eyes. Maya got out, and from the back seat, a little girl emerged, 6 years old, dark curls, wearing overalls. Levi stood up slow. Dad, Tyler called. There's someone I want you to meet proper. Emma. Levi had seen pictures, birthday cards Tyler had sent over the years with photos enclosed, but he hadn't met her. 8 years of distance meant 8 years of missing his granddaughter's life. She was shy, hid behind Maya's leg when they came up on the porch. "Emma," Maya said gently, "this is your Grandpa Levi, Daddy's father." Emma peeked out, studied Levi with serious dark eyes. "Hi there," Levi said, knelt down slow, old knees protesting. "I'm pleased to meet you." "Daddy says you have chickens," Emma said. "I do. Want to see them?" She nodded. They spent the morning together. Emma collected eggs, chased barn cats, got her overalls dirty in the garden. Tyler and Maya watched from the porch, holding hands. Ruth made lunch for everyone. Sandwiches and lemonade and the particular kind of peace that comes from family being family again, even if the shape of it has changed. After lunch, Emma explored the barn. Found the rocking chair Levi had finally finished, stained and sealed and sitting in the corner. "That's pretty," she said. "It's for someone special," Levi told her. "Someone who earns it." What's earned mean? Levi thought about that. About Tyler working through the heat. About Maya driving 4 hours every weekend to rebuild a marriage. About Ruth watching out for a neighbor who needed watching over. "Means you show up," he said. "You do the work. You keep your promises even when it's hard." Emma nodded seriously, like that made sense. That evening, after Maya and Emma had left and Tyler had gone to clean up, Levi stood on the porch with his coffee. The rocking chair sat beside him, empty but ready. The farm was quiet, peaceful. Tyler's truck was parked beside Levi's, working partnership, earned slowly, still fragile, but growing stronger. Ruth's light was on across the field. He'd walk over later, share a piece of pie, talk about nothing important. Sharon was gone, but alive, fighting her own battles now, alone like she'd chosen to be. And Levi, ordinary Levi Langford, electrician, father, fool who'd stood up when it mattered, he was still here. Still standing on his daddy's land, watching the sun set over fields 3 generations of Langfords had worked. Some things can't be stolen, he thought. Your word, your spine, your right to watch the sunset on your own terms, those you only give away, and he hadn't. Tyler came out, hair wet from the shower. "Mind if I sit?" "It's your porch too, son." They sat in the rockers, not the special one, but the old ones that had been there forever, and watched the fireflies start to blink in the growing dark. "Thank you," Tyler said after a while, "for letting me come back, for letting me try." Levi thought about all the things he could say, about forgiveness and failure and what it means to be a father. Instead, he said, "Fence in the south pasture needs checking tomorrow." Tyler smiled. First real smile Levi had seen in months. "I'll get on it after breakfast." "Good." They sat there as the stars came out, father and son. Work to do tomorrow. Second chances being earned one day at a time. It wasn't the ending Levi had imagined 40 years ago, standing at an altar promising forever. But it was real. It was honest. It was his. And that, Levi thought, was more than enough. Dawn came the way it always had. Levi sat on the porch with his coffee, watching pink and gold spread across the eastern sky. Cardinals calling from the oak tree, mist burning off the fields. The same morning routine he'd kept for 42 years, but everything about it felt different now. The rocking chair sat beside him, empty, waiting, reserved for someone who'd earn it someday. Maybe Emma, when she was older and understood what it meant to show up. Maybe nobody. That was all right, too. Some things you don't give away just because they're finished. Sharon had called him ordinary like it was an insult. Took him 3 months to understand she'd told the truth, just not the way she meant it. Ordinary decency, ordinary loyalty. Ordinary keeping your word when it costs you something. That wasn't the floor. That was the ceiling most people never reached. Tyler's light came on in the workshop. His son would be out soon, coffee in hand, ready for another day of earning back what he'd thrown away. Some days were better than others. Some days Tyler couldn't meet Levi's eyes, but he kept showing up. That was what mattered. Levi took a sip of coffee, still hot, bitter, and good. He thought about Sharon, living with her sister 2 counties over. Hoped she'd beaten the cancer for good. hoped she'd found some kind of peace. But he hoped from a distance now. Some distances were healthy. Some doors, once closed, needed to stay that way. Ruth would be over soon with biscuits. Maya and Emma on Saturday. Work waiting in the south pasture. Bills to pay, fence to mend, life to live. Normal things, ordinary things. The screen door creaked. Tyler came out, 2 mugs in his hands. Set one beside Levi without asking. Stood at the porch rail looking out at the land their family had worked for 3 generations. Going to be hot today, Tyler said. Always is in August. That fence? Can wait till it cools off some. Levi glanced at his son. No sense getting heat stroke over it. Tyler nodded, sipped his coffee. Looked like he wanted to say something, then didn't. That was all right. Some things didn't need saying. They stood there together as the sun climbed higher. Father and son, not fixed, but fixing. Not healed, but healing. Levi thought about his own father, buried under the oak tree beside Ranger. Wondered if the old man would be proud of how this all turned out, how Levi had stood his ground, how he'd fought without becoming cruel, how he'd left the door open for his son to come home, even after everything. Probably. Dad had always been big on second chances, as long as they were earned. You know what I learned? Levi said. Tyler looked at him. Some people are worth forgiving. Some aren't worth the energy of hating. You just release them. Let them go live their lives while you live yours. Tyler was quiet for a minute. Then, which am I? Levi met his son's eyes, saw the fear there, the desperate hope. The boy he'd raised still hiding inside the man who'd lost his way. You're the one who came back, Levi said. That's worth something. Tyler's throat worked. He nodded, couldn't speak. They finished their coffee as the morning settled in around them. Ordinary morning, ordinary men, ordinary grace of showing up and trying again. Movies ended with everybody hugging, crying, all forgiven. Real life ended with coffee on your own porch, watching the sun come up on land that was still yours, knowing some people left and some stayed and both were okay. The work wasn't done, might never be done. Trust took time, and they had a lot of time to make up for, but they had today, and tomorrow. And as many days as they kept showing up for. Levi set down his empty mug. Ready? Ready? They walked toward the barn together. The fence could wait, but there were 100 other things that couldn't. Work waiting for hands willing to do it right. Behind them, the rocking chair sat in the morning sun, empty, patient, reserved for worthy hands. And across the field, Ruth Callahan watched from her kitchen window, smiled to herself, poured another cup of coffee. Some things couldn't be stolen. Your word, your spine, your right to wake up in your own house and decide how to spend your own day. Those you only gave away. And Levi Langford, ordinary man, electrician, father who'd stood up when it mattered, he hadn't given them away. He'd held on, fought back, stood his ground, and in the end, he was still standing. That was enough, more than enough. That was everything.